This is the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, to be held March 16, 2021 at 6 p.m. And if we could have our clerk virtually take the roll, please.
Councilmember Henry?
Here.
Councilmember Curot?
Here.
Councilmember Matthews?
Here.
Councilmember Naren?
Here.
Councilmember Wilden?
Here.
Vice Mayor Halse?
Here.
Mayor Alinsky?
Here. Thank you. Okay, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Next on the agenda is a brief summary of current events by the mayor, city council, and/or city manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during the summary unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. Any council members have anything to report this evening? Vice Mayor? You need to get your mic. I'm sorry if you could push the button.
Thank you. Came up with some interesting information that I thought would be worthwhile to pass on to you. In 2020 Arizona Youth Survey, there were 1,362 students and 9 schools participated in the survey in Yavapai County. They were asking questions about student consumption of drugs and alcohol. Alcohol is 19% of the drugs and alcohol being used by students is 19%. Binge drinking is 4.7% of those students. E-cigarettes or vaping, 21.8% are vaping. Marijuana use is at 14.8%, and marijuana edibles is at 7.7%. Vaping is the #1 drug being used by students today, with alcohol #2 and marijuana #3. Between 2018 and 2020, there had been a downward trend in drug use, a 71% reduction in prescription drug use, 69% reduction in cigarette use, and a 46% reduction in alcohol use by students. Challenges that are presently facing us are a 20% increase in marijuana use, 51% increase in e-cigarette vaping use, and vaping can cause almost immediate, very severe lung problems resulting in death, unlike cigarettes that you can smoke for 20 or 30 years before you have a problem. Parent-child conversations about drug and alcohol use. 35% of parents talk about alcohol use, and the drug use, all other drug use is at a lower level of conversation between parents and children. And we need to do something about informing parents of their responsibility to talk to their children about drug use. Between 2017 and 2020, there had been 71% increase in overdose deaths in Arizona. Fentanyl use in Yavapai County in 2020, there were 42 deaths out of 82 drug-related deaths that were from fentanyl. Methamphetamine was #2 with 29 deaths. 9 deaths in Cottonwood, 3rd highest average in the state, and we were tied with Camp Verde. In 2020, 41.9% of opioid deaths in Arizona were fentanyl-related. Total deaths in Arizona, drug deaths in Arizona last year was 1,815. Now for the good news, on March 27th, Saturday, at 10 a.m. at Mortimer Farms, there will be a Walk With Me event, which is an event for parents and children to go to with all kinds of fun activities and a 1-mile march against drugs. It's free admission. All of the activities are free on that day. So if you're available and you can take your children, It'd be a good thing to do. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for the information. Any other council members? No. I got a chance last Friday to introduce Senator Kelly and moderate a 1-hour conversation with the members of GAMA, the Greater Arizona Mayors Association. So it was great to have him on for an hour. Mr. Corbin, you were there as well. And we had mayors from Kingman to Sholo to Chino Valley, all across northern Arizona. So it was really good to have them on the call, and they all expressed, very similar concerns as what we share here in Cottonwood, and we just impressed upon the senator that we need help with housing. Water security was a big one. Here in the Verde Valley, we're pretty united in both water security, housing, as well as support for our national forests. So anyway, it was a good conversation, all virtual, and I somehow managed to keep it under control, given my technical challenges. But that's all I have.
Mr. Mayor, let's not forget to thank Senator Kelly's staff who helped you keep it under control.
Yes, it's true. Not the best with Zoom, but I'm trying.
And then I also wanted to talk just a quick second about the survey that Vice Mayor Hulse discussed. The Chief of Police, Steve Gazelle, and I spent about 30 minutes talking about it on our Inside Cottonwood. So if you want to know a little more about that and some other current trends, check that out. And then just as an FYI, it'll probably come back up the first meeting in April. Our Chief of Police will be giving his annual State of Affairs update at our council meeting. I believe it's April 6th at about 6. And then for our regular updates, Mr. Mayor and Council, Manzanita Outreach is offering a drive-through food share event where perishable and non-perishable food boxes will be loaded into trucks of cars. The event will take place in the parking lot on the west side of Mingus Union School by the tennis courts. This will take place tomorrow, March 17th from 4 to 5:30. Again, April 14th, 4 to 5:30, and May 12th, 4 to 5:30. If you'd like more information, contact Mike Newcomb at 928-649-5772. I hope that wasn't his personal phone number. On March 15th, firefighter Moldovan received a phone call at the station. It was one with a request like we've never received before. It was a grandmother asking for someone to help her 16-year-old grandson how to ride a bicycle. The firefighter was very interested and willing to help her out. He went to meet them and see the possibilities. Upon arrival, he met the grandson with his bicycle helmet on and ready to learn how to ride. Firefighter Moldovan could not say no. He spent the next few hours teaching him how to ride his new bicycle. Firefighter Moldovan was a true representative of what being a firefighter is all about on this day. His actions had a positive impact and made a huge difference in the community he serves. It gives me chills when we get an opportunity to do great things like that to help out the people in our community. And then another announcement, the City of Cottonwood is working closely with the Old Town Association to promote and welcome the Rat Rods to Old Town on Saturday, April 10th. The community is invited to come out to Old Town between noon and 5 p.m. to view the Rat Rod cars on display and vote for their favorite vehicle, enjoy the music, visit Old Town shops and restaurants. Visit www.ratrodaddiction.com for more information.
All right, very good. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the call to the public portion of the agenda. This is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda for a discussion. However, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and or action. And comments are limited to a 3-minute time period. Is there anyone in the public this evening that would like to address the council? And,
Mr. Mayor, yes, our Parks and Recs manager would like to address council to talk about an Easter egg event.
Okay, great.
He just found out.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. So with the current situation we're in and the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we aren't able to hold our Easter program the same way we have in years past. So our team got together to brainstorm an idea on what we could do for our community. So Saturday, April 3rd, We're going to be holding an Easter extravaganza at the Recreation Center. It'll be an underwater Easter extravaganza where people can register to come into the pool, do a pool Easter egg hunt, and then on their way out or on their way in, they'll come through the gymnasium where we'll have a bunch of different carnival games set up and things like that kids can trade in eggs to play carnival games. Then everybody will leave with a little gift basket from the Easter Bunny itself on their way into the pool. Get to do the real quick Easter egg hunt in there for 30 minutes, and we'll send them on their way and celebrate Easter that way.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you.
Any questions or anything?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks for putting that together. That's great. Yeah. All right. And Matt, do we have anyone virtually? No? Okay. All right. Then we'll go ahead and close the floor and move on to approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of February 16 and March 2, 2021. And I'll motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Okay. Mayor made the motion. Councilmember Henry seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Minutes are approved. Next is a monthly financial report. This is the financial report for the month of December 2020. Any questions from council? No? Looks good. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, we have one resident hiding behind the TV that did want to speak at the call to the public.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
To your right.
Okay. Oh, yes, ma'am. I apologize if I overlooked you.
That's okay, thank you. I'm here on behalf of the residents of Verde Plaza Apartments, and sorry, I have a petition here that most of them have signed, asking the city council to maybe form a committee to find out where the low-income housing is. Can we get more? Because apparently it's disappearing here, and there's always going to be low-income families or people. Some of the people are disabled. They are on an extremely limited income. There are people who are there from the sanctuary, the abuse center, and nobody has a place for us to go. There aren't any in the valley. And all we would like to know is there a way of forming a committee to look into it? We do have ideas ourselves that we would like to be included if that's possible, because when a situation comes up like this, we have 4 families that have to be out at the end of the month. We were just notified March 1st. So they've had 30 days. We have 6 next month, and so on until our contracts are up. And the only place to go is in our cars out on the road. And there's over 40 families that are going to be homeless. And a lot of them don't have cars. And we need help. And we would like very much for the council to help us, because this is a serious need. A lot of us are senior citizens. I personally did not become I had a very good job. And at 39, I was made a cripple for life 33 years ago. Not because I wanted to. I was making $5,000 a month. Couldn't help it. I did what my employer said, and I had 2 back injuries within 6 months of each other. So here I am. I have no choice. So we would like your opinions and help if you can. And I do have the list of the people if you would like to have them tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. This is just a call to the public, so we're not able to engage in conversation with you, but I appreciate you being here and bringing this to our attention. And I'd encourage you to get with the manager or the clerk at your convenience to talk with them about the conversations that are going on about your situation there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And if I could ask you too, on your way out, if you could just fill out one of the forms for the clerk so that we have it. There's a little yellow form in the back. They'll get it to you. It's okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I asked the city attorney if I could give an update. I've talked to several council members about it, but we'll get her contact information and I will follow up with her directly. She's actually the lovely lady I spoke with on the phone last week. But we are putting a committee together. It's meeting the week of March 29th. That's made up of a whole bunch of players throughout the Verde Valley. And I'll talk to her about what other kind of subcommittee or committee she's talking about, and maybe we can do that. But we've reached out to Catholic Charities, United Way, Homeless Coalition. Our city attorney's office is working through other avenues to see what we can do. But we've not ignored the issue, but she's right when she says there's not housing in the area. But we're working on it, and I'll reach out to her again directly and see what else we can do if we've missed something.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. There's 4 items tonight under consent agenda. First is extension of contract for pavement marking services with Franklin Striping, Inc. for 1 additional year. Item 2, resolution number 3087, appointing Thomas Stolk, a member of the city's personnel board. Item 3, appointing Kent Hellman, a member of the city's public personnel retirement system local boards. And item 4 is temporary extension of premises liquor license application submitted by Emil Mullen, agent for Cove Mesa Vineyard LLC, located at 741 Air Parkway, units 8 and 9. Any items that a council member or citizen would like pulled? All right, I'll motion then to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Henry seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, it's approved. And if we could have our clerk read resolution number 3087 by title only, please.
Resolution number 3087, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, appointing Thomas S. Stolk, a member of the city's personnel board, and establishing his term of office. Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, new business is up next. Following items are for council discussion, consideration, and possible legal action. First up is discussion and direction to staff regarding a possible issuance of pension obligation bonds or similar debt instruments to pay off the current unfunded liability of the city's public safety personnel retirement system, or to increase the city's transaction privilege tax rate for the same purpose.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am Kirsten Lennon, the Financial Services Director for the City of Cottonwood. We've come before you and brought a presentation from Stiefel on bonding, and then and Mike Townsend from Public Safety Retirement on what we could do for bonding and paying off the unfunded liability. The current unfunded liability is about 18 million, and to bond would be about 20 million. And what you requested was to get more information on what a sales tax or something of that nature, how we could pay it down. So if you'll go to the first slide, Matt. So currently our TPT tax is 9.85%. 3.5% of that is the city's portion. The remainder is made up of the county at 0.75 and the state at 5.6. If you were to increase our TPT by 0.15, which would get us to 3.65%, at our current sales, you would bring in about $809,000 more annually. And I'm being very generic when I say at the same sales, everything stays the same. We're level. We're not increasing or decreasing. Next slide. So I just wanted to give you a kind of an idea of what the surrounding areas have for sales tax. You can see we're kind of currently at 9.85. We're kind of where everyone else is. There's 2 that are above the 9.85. Camp Verde's at 10%, and Chino Valley is at 10.35%. If we were to increase it by 0.15, we would be at the 10%, the same as Camp Verde. So our current allocation of the increase that you guys chose to do in 2019, we had designated a 10% portion of that to go towards this unfunded liability. And this last year, we budgeted $241,525. But that small amount of money makes a very little impact on our unfunded liability. Over the whole life, I calculated it was only like $800,000 over the whole life of the loan, of the unfunded liability to 2038. So we have kind of given you direction that maybe it might be better spent going towards sidewalks, because we do have a large need for sidewalks. So my estimates for 2022 that I used, saying that if things stay the same and we make the same sales tax rate this next year, if we increase it by 0.15% and we take that allocation from 2019 and the increase and combine them, that's about $1 million. So what would happen if we put that $1 million towards the unfunded liability every year? Next slide, Matt. So PSPRS provides us a program in Excel, a modeler, to kind of allow us to put those numbers in, and it gives you an idea of what would happen if you did a whole lot of different options. So there are a lot of assumptions in these calculations, though. One of the assumptions is that you'll have level staffing, and that's in Tier 1. So Tier 1 is anybody that was hired prior to 2012. So if they were hired prior to 2012, that's the Tier 1. That's the largest unfunded liability. Tier 2 is to 2017. So you have the same staffing in Tier 1 and Tier 2, and you have it forever. So that's one of the assumptions. Well, obviously, we're not going to have that same level because people are going to retire. People are going to have to go on disability. People are going to leave and go somewhere else. So those numbers will most likely go down. And then the Tier 3 will go up. That's the trend you're going to see. Tier 3 is fully funded. It's a different rate. It has different criteria. But we pay a legacy payment on the Tier 3 to help the unfunded liability for Tier 1 and Tier 2. So that's one of their assumptions, is that you're going to be level. The other assumption is that they're going to earn a 7.3% return on their investment, and that is built into the modeler. So looking at changes on payroll growth, they're now estimating, and they started this with the 2021 rates, that we will have an annual 2% payroll growth. Well, not everybody has an annual 2% payroll growth. It could fluctuate. You could put those different percentages in the modeler, but I just tried to keep things flat and level just to give you an idea. So assuming that we started the sales tax and started contributing, and we went by our current estimates. Next slide, Matt. I took the police department. I said, if we had $1 million and we're going to put 75% towards of that million towards PD's unfunded liability and 25% towards fire's unfunded liability. So you can see that our current rate to be fully funded, we will be fully funded by 2039. You can see at the very bottom of the first column. And that's going to be about $24 million by the time that that's all paid, just for the police department's unfunded liability. If you were to contribute $750,000 for 10 years from 2022, using the money that we earned in 2022, pay it in 2023 forward, you would contribute an additional $7.5 million to the fund, and it would save you $2.5 million. So next slide. Same thing with the police department. You can see that our liability would be paid off, we'd be fully funded. 2039, that's a $10 million cost for the fire department. If we were to contribute an additional $2.5 million over the 10 years, it would save us $886,000. Next slide. So by allocating an additional $10 million in sales tax over a 10-year period, it would have a cost savings of $3.5 million. And that's partially because you're paying off the Tier 2 legacy payment. That goes away. So that's a large percentage that we're paying. And of course, this is based on many assumptions. Public safety's modeler is not perfect. We don't know if things are going to change. Next slide. So Stiefel brought us a really great presentation last time at the staff at the council meeting. And this is the slide that they showed, where they show if we bond now and pay off the unfunded liability, we have an estimated benefit of $10 million. And the payments are, and as you can see at the top, the the benefit is smaller in the first couple years, and then it grows as we get closer to the end of the bond. And we also would have a $2.3 million reserve in case anything changed at public safety and our unfunded liability went back up again, and that would sit in reserves. So then they sent us a new scenario, which would be the next slide, scenario 2. Same 2.3 million reserve, same bond of 20 million, same savings. They just leveled out so that we have almost the same amount of savings every year. So the payments kind of stay the same and our savings are the same every year for the whole life of the bonding. Next slide. So the difference between bonding and sales tax. So when we bond, obviously that debt goes on our books as a bond, as debt. Currently, we have to pay that debt, and it's on our books, but it's different. You know, it's not set as this is your annual payment, this is what it's going to be every year. It's whatever public safety tells us it's going to be. If we did a sales tax increase, we'd be at normal like we are now. Bonding, it's on the books. So we are assuming that the liability doesn't grow. You know, that's a big assumption. We're hoping that with Mike Townsend, he has changed a lot and is really working hard to make public safety a better organization. So we're assuming that in both scenarios. We're also assuming in both scenarios that they have a 7.3% return on their investment. And then doing bonding, we're paying down that debt with current dollars. We're not charging our citizens any more money. We're not increasing our sales tax. But if we increase our sales tax, we are charging our citizens more money. Bonding allows a $2 million reserve and it gains interest in case of an unfunded liability increase, whereas doing a sales tax increase, it doesn't. But also doing a sales tax increase, we might earn more than $1 million more every year, and we could reserve those funds. So the projected cost savings for bonding is $10 million, and the projected assumed cost savings for using the sales tax is only $3.5 million. So, you know, it does save us more money to do the bonding, and we would be reducing our allocation towards the sidewalks. That's another thing about the sales tax. And I know that list of sidewalks a few years ago that was shown to you guys, it was like $5 million in sidewalks that were needed. So I guess now would be a time for any questions if you have any from me. And also we have Stiefel on the meeting as well if you have any questions for them.
This has got to be real difficult giving this conversation with this mask on at the
Yes,
podium the whole time. Is that something that's required, or is that something you're doing voluntarily?
It's not required. She's 6 feet away. The only thing is we don't clean it off between users, but there's other reasons she's probably safe to take it off.
It's just kind of difficult, a little bit muffled at times, so seems to be a bit of overkill.
You have a question? No. Any questions from council for Kirsten?
I have a couple. You're saying, pardon me, if we increase our sales tax by 0.15%, we have a possible savings of $3.5 million at the end.
Yes.
If we go with bonding, we have a $2.3 million reserve to begin with, and we have a probable savings of $10 million. Is that correct?
That's correct.
On top of the 2.3. What are the probabilities that they're going to continue to get this 7.1% interest every year? That seems to me kind of high considered how things have gone in the past 10 years.
Well, I do know that their investments do better than ours do. But there is no guarantee that it will stay at 7.3% and that they'll get that 7.3%. But they base all of their information that they even do giving us our unfunded liability amount, doing everything on that 7.3%.
Mr. Mayor, can I also add, they changed the rules on the returns. In previous years, the cost of living increases was guaranteed. So any excess returns above that 7.3 didn't always end up back in the pot. Now it would end up back in the pot. So one year they do a little better, the next year maybe a little less, but it should average out. It's set up correctly now to fund the fund.
How has that been trending there?
I think the last time I saw they were getting 5.6%. So they're not horribly far off that 7.3.
All right. If there's nothing else from council, then I guess we'll just move on with your presentation.
That's it. So basically, what we're asking from you tonight is to make a decision on whether you want us to pursue issuing bonds for paying off the unfunded liability, do nothing, and continue paying on our unfunded liability how we have, or to work towards a proposed increase in the sales tax of 0.1 of whatever percentage you choose to help pay off the unfunded liability.
All right, council, let's have a conversation about that.
My first question, which is not an easy one to answer, what is the absolute downside of the bonding? I mean, what are some really negative reasons not to do that?
My only thought would be is if they don't get their returns and the unfunded liability starts to grow and increase it rapidly. I mean, that would be really the only downside, because we're going to have to pay off this unfunded liability no matter what. It's there. It's our debt. We'll have to pay it.
And on that same note, have we done the numbers, the expected savings to the city at the 5.6%, the current actual trending instead of the 7.3%?
I did not. No, I didn't calculate that.
So we're going into this based on numbers that we know aren't correct.
Well,
the
they're
savings.
giving us the number at 7.3, even though they're only, last I saw, it was only 5.6. They base all of their calculations on the 7.3%.
Right, and my concern is that includes our expected savings.
Mr. Mayor, if I can add, the unfunded liability is calculated on the 7.3% return. So all the numbers we've had tonight, including the debt, is based on that 7.3% return. So that's the number they're currently going with. If they were to lower it, our unfunded liability would go up. And we have if we bond, you have the 2.3. If we do nothing, it just gets added to our annual payment, which is not a good option either. If you noticed out on the out years, in about 10 years,
You go
our
back to
payments
the
are
fifth or sixth slide.
are pretty significant.
But what's the reality?
So go to 9, sorry, go to 9.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Wilden, the reality is we have to go with a 7.3. That's the numbers the actuaries are using. That's the number that's currently being used to calculate everything. If they get a better return, we have savings later on. If it's lower, it'll be added on at the end to our unfunded liability, which is going to happen regardless of any actions we take here tonight. It's outside of our scope of control. So the $2.3 million reserve, if we wanted to hedge our bets or take precautionary steps, setting aside some money for just in case is always a good idea.
All right, if we could have the folks that are attending virtually mute themselves, please, because we're getting some feedback here. I'd appreciate it. All right. Any other thoughts?
If we were to bond and everything is to go as predicted, we would end up with $12.5 million in savings at the end. 12.3, pardon me. If things go down, we would still have some part of that 10 million to make up for those deficiencies as well as the 2.3. Is that correct? I realize the 10 million would not, there would not be 10 million if the interest rates go down and the returns go down, but there would be some additional besides the 2.3 million, unless it all went to zero.
If we reserved the savings, if we put aside the $10 million, I mean, whatever that savings was every year, if we put that in reserves as well, we would have that at the end of the bonding.
So in theory, we could end up at the end with $12 million that could be used for other things. No?
Mr. Mayor and Mr. Vice Mayor, no, there's no plan to take the savings and put it aside. If we could afford the savings, if we could afford that bill, then we wouldn't have to be bonding. The whole point of this is, if you look up on year 2032, 33, and this is this just police, or is that the whole thing?
Good afternoon. This is Omar Daga standing with Stifel. I wanted to see if I could add to some of the discussions, if it's okay, if I may be recognized.
Please go right ahead. Go right ahead, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry I can't be there in person today. I do very much look forward to meeting with you all in person in the future. And so a couple of the questions that have been raised. Number one is, and I think the questions all get to the same point of, why are some of the reasons that we should consider not doing this, right? And the big reason is investment returns. If you're, all of the models and the projected savings are predicated on the assumed PRS, assumed earnings rate of 7.3%. Interestingly enough, PRS management is improving, but even if you're to look over the historical 10 years, they have beaten that average of 7.3%. That's not to say that it's any guarantee for the future, but that is at least a good indicator of future success. Number two, you already have investment return risk by virtue of by being a participant in PSPRS, right? And so to the extent that market returns are something other than the 7.3%, which they're going to be year over year, some years are going to be better, some are going to be worse. And to the extent that, on average, you approximate that 7.3%, you should, in fact, achieve those expected savings that we show of about $12 million, or the 10 million plus the 2.3 in reserves. Now, the question came, well, what if you don't earn that 7.3%? I think that's a very fair question, and it's one that we should all be comfortable with. The good news here is that, all the way down to your bonding rate, so if you had an assumed bonding rate of, let's call it 3% for a moment, if you earned an average of 6% or 5%, you're still better off for having done this, even if it's not an exact match. You would only be worse off if PSPRS earned less than your bonding rate of, whatever that might be if you were to come to market. And in that instance, if that were to happen, something pretty bad has happened in the world over the course of this transaction. I think there's a fair chance for success. I know in other jurisdictions in which we've met and looked at this strategy, people considered that, and they considered the information presented by PSPRS in terms of I think there's a question about the percentage probability of hitting that 7.3%, which I think Mr. Townsend represented that they've had tested and feel pretty comfortable that over the long haul they're going to hit. But I just wanted to address a few of those questions, and thank you for allowing me to address those. I'd certainly be glad if there are more specific ones beyond that. But just wanted to add that sort of additional perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Do we have any questions for Stifel's staff? Okay. All right. And if we could get those folks virtually to just mute yourselves, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, Ron.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to clarify that Vice Mayor was asking about putting the savings back into reserves or a savings account. The reason we're asking for this is we don't think we can continue to afford the probable annual payments that are going to occur in the out years. They're going to be almost doubling what we currently pay. Kirsten, if you can help me out with numbers.
So if you look at currently this next year for 2022, they're estimating our total contributions for Tier 1 and Tier 2 for just the police department, our portion, is 1.1 million. That's just the police. And then if you look at the next slide for fire, it's probably around, I gotta find that slide, hold on. It's hard when I don't have control of the slides. It's 528,000. So basically, for the two, we're going to be paying about $2 million. And then as the years progress, when we get down to around 2030, it'll be $2.5 million. So it'll continue to grow. And then as we get later on in the years, it'll go down. But it will grow to a peak in 2030. That will be like the highest that we pay. It'll be $1.5 million for, and that's if nothing changes. That's if we don't add a lot of staff. That's if, those are just the estimates that they're giving us at this time. That's if they don't change their actuaries and, we don't hire 12 people and.
All right, well, I appreciate you getting all the information together on what a sales tax increase would do, but I'm just not in favor of that for a lot of reasons, but also just the fact that it's not going to be that big a savings compared to bonding. So it really does seem to me like the sensible solution to the problem that we face is to bond for this amount and hope and pray that the PSPRS doesn't tank below the 3% or whatever, wherever we come in at, because then that would be a bad situation, obviously. But again, like the gentleman said, there would be a lot of folks in the same position, and the world would be a pretty rough shape at that point if that were to occur. So I think obviously there's risk involved, but I think it's the sensible solution.
I would agree. I'm very uncomfortable with adding more sales tax at this time. The bonding seems to be a level way of being able to pay this unfunded debt without increasing our indebtedness as far as what we have to plan for. And I think we would be better off doing this rather than raising sales tax. I'm just really reluctant to push a sales tax at this time.
Okay, so the way I see this is this is the only option we have. We can't keep going the way we're going. We can't afford to pay this down without doing something else. And I don't think anybody up here is willing to raise sales tax and put that on the backs of our taxpayers. So that's not an option. This is a pretty good prospectus. If I was given this as an investment opportunity, I'd seriously look at it. I'd take it. The market, there's always market volatility, and as an investor, I'm willing to take that myself. I figure if everything tanks and the whole world economy fails, we're all in the same boat. We all are going to take that risk. So I don't see where we have any other option. This is a pretty good one that's been well thought out and well presented. So I'm in favor of moving forward with it.
The other thing too that I think this offers us is certainty in budgeting, which is really important. Ron, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was looking for the number because the 1.5 was not correct. So for PD alone in the 30s in 2030, the payment is a 2.5. So the expected payment PSPRS is going to be expecting us to pay in about 2035 and 36 is $2.5 million on top of that. And then we'll have the fire on top of that. What this bonding does is, like you said, allow the budgeting, brings it back down to about $1.5 million a year, steady through the bonding period.
Any other thoughts, Council?
No, I just think that as far as the options go, this is probably the best of what we've got. Again, I'm not in favor of raising taxes as well.
And I agree with everybody else. No way should we be raising taxes right now when people are already struggling because of COVID. So I'd be in favor of the bonding.
All right. Is there any other discussion? Are we ready to make a motion? Go right ahead, Councilmember Wilden. Then I would go ahead and motion then to direct staff to continue pursuing the possibility of issuing pension obligation bonds, certificates of participation, or similar debt instruments to fund the city's public safety personnel retirement system unfunded liability.
Second.
All right, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Matthews seconded it, and if we could have our clerk please take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Henry,
No.
Councilmember Currat,
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews,
Yes.
Councilmember Naren,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Halse,
Yes.
Mayor Linsky.
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is an annual report on the city's general plan 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council members, I'm Gary Davis, Community Development Planner. State law requires city planning agencies to annually give city councils a report on the status of the general plan, our general plan 2025, and progress in its implementation. As we've done in previous years, we've provided in your packet a very lengthy list, a table of the various goals and objectives in the plan. And in the right-hand column, where there has been changes, updates, we've placed comments in there from various departments. If you've got any questions on any of those, I don't know that I would be able to answer them right now, but I can pass them along to appropriate staff, and we can get back to you on those. So that concludes my presentation, unless you have comment or questions about the process.
Questions, comments? We can't let this be the shortest presentation ever.
That's my goal.
Tell me how you're going to get the public engaged in this general plan.
Well, we do have a 10-year update due in 2024. We last adopted the 2025 plan in 2014. So we're going to be gearing up and talking to our planning commission about changes that need to be made and ramping up the public outreach process for that in the next year or so. It's going to be interesting under the circumstances. Hopefully things will go back to normal before we get too far into that.
All right.
I just had a question because it looks as though we have, some of our objectives I think we are working towards, but perhaps we haven't updated this. We have a lot of blanks, but yet they are items that we're working on. For example, our open space. I mean, I saw a couple areas on those, and we've been having discussions and ongoing. So I just was wondering, what the process for the rest of these blanks are, where we are working on some of them.
Right, a number of these are ongoing, and in a lot of cases we've put that on there, and in other cases it's aspirational goals like encourage this kind of thing, form groups to do this kind of thing. When those groups haven't been formed, obviously the blank is left blank, but as you say, a lot of them are ongoing. They just don't always show up as ongoing here.
So are you then the responsible person for compiling this information, even though it's multiple different departments? And is it perhaps just a lack of communication between departments to you, or?
Well, I put out an email to other departments, and they got me the comments that you see here.
Any other questions, council? All right, well, I'm going to remain optimistic and think that you're going to be able to get some more updates.
Very good.
Thank you.
I think as a council, though, I mean, I think we should document better. I mean, this, again, a lot of these items that are blank, we are actually working through. I mean, you can pick almost any blank objective. Like, I'm looking at I'm just picking one, objective 5.5-3A, participate with various organizations, agencies, jurisdictions to identify and acquire properties which have significance as regional open space, evaluate the impact of open space acquisitions on the developable land base. I mean, that's something that we just did and are doing with Spring Creek. We've had discussions about the open space, the Forest Service area, the buffers, and so I don't know why we're not updating, because if we want to engage the public's going to take a look at this document and say, why aren't you doing things that you actually are doing? So I don't know if we can't focus perhaps on, before we try to engage the public, making sure that we do have good updates on how we're working toward these goals, because that's just one example, but you can look at many other ones, and I think we are doing that. I mean, a lot of the transit goals seem like we're meeting them, and they're just blank.
No, I agree. I think that's good feedback.
Yeah, I think even if it's just pending, there's lots on here that we do now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item 3 is the ordinance number 695, amending the zoning ordinance by amending section 426 NF zone, National Forest District, first reading.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is a first reading of an ordinance that would amend our zoning code to provide a needed update. The National Forest Zone chapter in our code refers specifically to the Prescott National Forest. Well, that was written at a time when all of Cottonwood was on the west side of the river. Since then, we've gone east, and that we do have Coconino National Forest land in the city now as well. So this is just to remove any language that's specific to the Prescott National Forest. And I did notify the National Forests of the pending change, and Prescott National Forest responded they understand why we need to do that, to be non-specific, so they didn't have any comments beyond that.
Questions, comments, council? No? Anyone from the public this evening would like to comment on this item? No. All right, it is just a first reading, so we'll bring it back. Could have our clerk please read ordinance number 695 by title only?
Ordinance number 695, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, amending the city's zoning ordinance by amending section 426 NF Zone, National Forest District. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next is ordinance number 696, amending the zoning map of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona for a change, for a parcel of land, assessor's parcel number 406-42-008, so as to change certain district boundaries and classifications thereof from the present zoning designation of R1, single-family residential, to CR, commercial residential, and this too is the first reading. Evening.
Thank you, Mayor Alinsky, members of the council. I'm Jim Padgett, Community Development Planner. So what we're looking at tonight, and this presentation covers both item 4 and 5 on the agenda, the rezone and the general plan amendment. How this all started was the applicant came in and wanted to combine 2 parcels. Normally that's a process, an administrative process that we handle at the staff level. In this situation, and the parcel that we're looking at there, the subject site, we call it the funnel-shaped parcel, and that fronts on Willard Street. Go to the next slide. So the property owner on Main wanted to combine the parcel, the funnel-shaped parcel, facing on Willard. Normally, like I said, combining 2 parcels, we just do administratively. We encountered a couple of issues on this one. We cannot combine 2 parcels with separate zoning designations. The Main Street parcel is zoned commercial residential. The Willard Street parcel is zoned R1, single family residential. So we had to clear that situation. At the same time, there are two separate general plan designations. The Main Street parcel was zoned or was designated neighborhood commercial, and the funnel-shaped property was designated public, semi-public, and institutional. So a lot of this that we're bringing to you with this general plan amendment and zone change is, in a sense, housekeeping to create more effective and efficient zoning and general plan designations on these properties. Next slide. Go ahead, go on to the next one, and one more. This is a survey of the funnel-shaped property. You can see it's a difficult property. However, it's going to be, could be developed in the future. Someone's going to have some creative thinking on how to make that work. After this zone change and general plan amendment, the property owner is still intending on splitting this parcel, which will be a project going to Planning Commission and a future project, not anything that's being considered tonight. That would leave some of that parcel attached behind their parcel would be enlarging their existing Main Street, and then it would leave a usable odd-shaped portion that somebody could come in and propose a development on the Willard property. In that case, they would have a commercial residential zoning and would have to comply with whatever development standards the CR zone required. Next slide. There's just some pictures of the subject site. It will show a little bit of the difficulty in that funnel-shaped property. There's an old sidewalk that goes up the hill. You can see that sort of covered up. And looking through the property here, they've done some significant clearing. There's been cleaning going on. This is the property, the area behind the Main Street property. So as you're looking down that narrow end of the funnel, this is where you're looking at here. Next slide. These are the houses on Main Street that back up to the funnel-shaped property. It's the farthest property on the left in this picture that is the property owner of both the Main Street and the Willard Street property. More pictures of properties located on Main behind the subject site. And next. This is across Willard Street. There's a rather steep embankment. Up on top of this hill, there's some usable property, but right adjacent to this on Willard, you can see the embankment. Next slide. And the same. Next slide. If you could see through this, you're looking at the rear of the hospice, Northern Arizona Hospice facility is back up through that. So it's sort of in a little no man's area down there. Next slide. There's a couple of street scenes looking north. If you're standing on Willard, just to the right is the subject site, the funnel property, and then looking back up Willard Street. That concludes what I have to say. So getting back to, it's a general plan amendment from public, semi-public, and institutional uses to neighborhood commercial, and the rezoning is from single-family residential to neighborhood commercial.
Quite a lot to unravel.
A simple project that got a little bit more involved than we.
Maybe they can get a cell phone tower on that lot.
I think it'd be great if they can move forward with developing the property. I run by this area frequently. It attracts a lot of trash. You know, I see litter, and I've noticed some clearing of some of the shrubs and undergrowth recently, and I think it'd be great to continue that and actually have some use of the property and have it better maintained and less littering that we currently see out there.
The owner has been in discussion with different people for for using and developing that property in the future. So yeah, we hope it's a great location there. We hope they would.
Have they given you any indication what they might be able to put out there?
The CR zone, which is basically all those houses on Main Street, would allow light commercial uses. The problem they're going to have will be meeting fire department access because of the shape and the ability for the apparatus to get on site. It could actually be a small single-family residence and a guest house. Those are permitted uses in the CR zone. They don't have a high parking requirement. Somebody may come in and surprise us with something we're not quite thinking of, but there are options that people have.
That's great. I was just curious about what was being discussed. Again, I'd be happy to have it cleaned up and looking nice and developed in the future.
And access, are they going to use Willard Street then for access to that property?
There is an access. Matt, could you go back to one of those slides with the red highlights? There are 3 properties, the one right at the corner of Main and Willard, the property next door to that used to be Abby's Kitchen, and the funnel-shaped property. All have a common ingress and egress going to 2 different garages and this vacant parcel. So those 3 property owners are working. There's been an unwritten agreement that was created when one property owner owned many of those properties on Main Street. They are coming in, and those 3 property owners are working together, and that would be something that would have to be clarified before any development of the funnel-shaped property. There will have to be a resolution, and the 3 property owners are working together where they can all have a win-win-win solution and have legal access dedicated for them.
But there would be a recorded easement?
Yes.
I guess my concern really is just that curve there, because I know folks really speed going down Willard, and I'd be concerned about vehicles coming off. And this isn't really part of the discussion now, and I'll stay in my lane, and I'll...
That's the only available legal access for that funnel-shaped property is right at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, okay. Where that easement will be recorded.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, got it. Great. All right. Planning and zoning did look at this, didn't they?
Yes, yes. This has gone to planning and zoning, and they recommended, it was a 6-0 approval, recommending approval.
All right, very good. This is the first reading. Is there any other comments, questions? No? Okay. Thank you for that, and we'll have the clerk read ordinance number 696 by title only.
Ordinance number 696, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending the zoning map of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, for a parcel of land APN 406-42008, so as to change certain district boundaries and classifications thereof from the present zoning designation of R1, single-family residential, to CR, commercial residential. Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. And then next is resolution number 3086. Nothing new to add there. You kind of covered everything. So I will go ahead and motion to approve resolution number 3086.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion. Councilmember Henry seconded it. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Henry.
Yes.
Councilmember Currat.
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews.
Yes.
Councilmember Naren.
Yes.
Councilmember Weldon.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Halls.
Yes.
Mayor Alinsky.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you. I will motion to pay the claims and adjustments.
Second.
All right, Mayor made the motion. Vice Mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And next up is our annual review of the presiding magistrate pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes 38-431.03.A.1. The council may vote to convene in executive session to discuss this matter subject to the magistrate's right to compel the council to conduct this discussion in an open meeting. And Judge Kelly, would you like to compel us to discuss this in open session? Okay. Then this is the part where we kick everybody else out, and we'll No, you have to stay. And we'll reconvene at the end, but for now, we're going to have to ask you all to leave, and thanks for being here.